Hello everyone, welcome to another classic toy review here at ScorcherToys@AnyMoon.com. Today we are looking at Yamato's 1/15 scale Proto-Garland toy as seen in the OVA Megazone 2-3 Part 2. This toy was released in January 2008 for 17,800 yen, and obviously if you're trying to buy it today you're going to be doing so in the secondary market. Now one question that often gets asked of me is where should I go shopping for new releases? And I've always been cagey about answering that because it really depends on what's important to you. But one store I've had nothing but good experiences with and can recommend easily is Big Bad Toy Store. So I've begun including a link to Big Bad Toy Store in my videos, and I encourage you to definitely do some shopping there, check them out. This toy followed the release of 4 repaints of the original Garland toy by Yamato, but it is a brand new toy, almost entirely a new mold. Although the box looks very similar and it does still have the same dimensions and flip-top lid, once you get inside things start getting pretty different. You get a new Shogo figure, which obviously emulates the look from Part 2. You get the Garland gun and net launcher, as well as a Hargan gun and shield. Below the cardboard tray that all that goodness is in, you'll find the instructions, and now you get a sticker sheet with a Eve sticker for the center console and a few different looks for the mirrors. You also get a Yamato advertisement, and a little plug here, I do have a full scan of the instructions up on AnyMoon.com. So in Megazone 2-3 Part 2, Mikamoto didn't come back to do the design of the characters. So everybody got a fresh new look, including Shogo. And here is the Shogo figure that comes with the Proto-Garland. One change Yamato made is that his Sex Wax jacket, which is a surf product, has been changed to now be 6 wax, either to dodge the licensing fee or to dodge any confusion over whether or not it's a vulgar product. So here we have the figure. He's got his shoulders, he's got hands that pop off and rotate, he's got elbows, and the elbows on this toy do a little bit better job of staying connected than the original Shogo figure. These little parts right here, they could pop off pretty easily. You do have an obvious seam in the hair, but you don't get optional facial doos like you did with the original Shogo figure. This toy came with a headband version and one where he's speaking on a little microphone as he's shown throughout the show. This figure just is what it is. There's no optional anything to it. So that's a little bit of a bummer that they've got that seam there, but not that big a deal. Now the head on mine is completely frozen. I can't twist this head, but originally you would have head articulation, and obviously you have this neck articulation, which again harkens back to the original figure, but it's a little bit better here, or at least freer moving on mine. And then you have the pivot at the waist, so you can crunch, which is good for obviously a motorcycle rider. You have the ability to bring the legs far apart. You have knees, and you might have feet. There you go. You got feet too. They only go up and down. They don't twist left, right. And that's all you need. Now, obviously, it's a bummer that this guy could never stand up. So, same problem. He also looks oddly thin. So this figure seems to have slightly more human shape to him, the original version, than this newest figure. But overall, it does what it needs to do to sit on the bike and crunch inside slave mode. And that's all really Yamato was looking for, and that's really all they accomplished. I mentioned that this toy was a brand new mold, and I meant it. There are things like these pop-out mirrors on the cowl here. That's pretty cool. You also have these little pieces in the front. They actually slide forward now when they connect for slave mode. And you've got just an all new detail work throughout. There's also one accessory that I didn't mention, and that is underneath the toy right now. There's that gold clip, this bronze clip right here, and that is locking the front of the toy to the center of the toy. And what that prevents is a common problem with the original Garland toy, where the arms that are connected by a magnet simply disconnect when you apply any pressure. And you might be thinking, why would you ever put that pressure on the toy? And when you're putting the rider figure on and you're trying to get his hands on the handles, that's when you would keep doing that. And so that was a little annoying. and that is resolved with this clip-on piece. Now obviously what I would have liked to have seen instead is some sort of a connection point that's built into the arm rather than a completely separate piece like that. Now, this brings us up to another problem with this toy, and that is all of the bronze plastic has become extremely brittle. And since it's an all new mold and all new transformation, bronze plastic is used in several places that render this toy very, very sad. So here is a clip that connects to this bar right here. And you can see that the top of the clip has broken off, which makes it so the whole front end of this toy can easily become disconnected. So you can see that optional piece underneath, pretty important right about now. But I can fix that, no big deal. Well, yes, big deal, but one of many problems. And let's continue on with the problems. This, you can see more bronze plastic here. And that seems like it's a pretty important place for bronze plastic to be too, right? And spoiler alert, yeah, that's broken too. So let me go ahead, both of these legs broken off at the connection point. So that's not very fun. But all of this disassembly lets me show off some of the gimmicks of this toy, and I'll put it back together again in just a moment. So this toy has baffles on the back that come up, skirts if you will, and reveal a thruster within the leg. So this comes up, and then you have this cool little thruster in the back. Unfortunately, as you can see, there's a broken hose at the top. Here's the other side. You can see there's a couple broken hoses in there. So if you try to move this toy now after it's been sitting around for 10 years, these pieces all crack. So, oh look, there's another broken one right there. So again, really brittle bronze plastic that breaks pretty much as soon as you start handling it. So do not, if you haven't done it yet, move this vent. All you're gonna do is break all of these tubes if you do. Now on the cool side, there's a little baffle inside the foot, which is brand new. And you can see that bronze detail. The bronze detail looked great. So when this toy was brand new, that was really cool. Now we also have one magnet on the side that comes out of the body. On the original Garland toy, what we have is two magnet connections. And honestly, it works pretty well. So this is one of the ones that they changed, and I'm not really sure it was that big of a benefit. So the only time this would ever come unhinged is if you were like grabbing the toy and dragging it by one of the legs, which is a pretty rare occurrence. On this toy, you've got this extended magnet, and now you've got a slot, and there is a peg now on the leg. And I don't think, honestly, it works any better than the original design. In fact, in my experience, particularly having a broken connection at the front of the leg, it works a little worse. So I was a little bummed out about that. This peg just isn't, the fit with this slot isn't ideal, so things come apart on you. Now, as you transform the toy, kind of a cool thing, this rotates and sinks in, so when the arm swings around, it is flush with the body. So it's a neat little gimmick. The other big change here, and I do have a transformation video for the original Garland. Obviously, with this toy falling apart as easily it does, I can't really shoot a new transformation guide for this toy. But when you go to transform it, you pop up the cowl, and then there's just a little bit of a difference here with this sliding piece. So there are differences in the minor details, and then you get this piece here comes down, and now there's this new vent here that was not on the original toy. So all of it functions the same, but there are just some minor little twists to it that are kind of cool. Again, that Yamato did do things a little bit differently, and again, a whole new mold for the most part. So cool that they did it, and unfortunate that over 10 years, whatever this bronze plastic they used just completely and utterly fell apart. Let's ignore this toy completely falling apart for a moment to talk about some more features of bike mode. There is a rotating front wheel. Even though it splits into two, it does spin freely. There is a back wheel, of course, also on there that is spinning when we do that, so that's cool. One of my big problems with the original Garland toy continues to be a problem with this toy, and that's that the legs are so big on the side, it doesn't really seem like a feasible motorcycle. This toy adds another gimmick to the front windscreen here. This windscreen now pivots up to reveal a monitor, and that's where you'd put that Eve sticker that the toy comes with. As you can see, there's also a little bit of a problem with this. It's supposed to be held up with friction, but there isn't a lot of friction, so that front windscreen often falls inside the cowl. With a little futzing with it, you can kind of make it work. One of the other issues from a durability standpoint that caught a lot of people off guard is that these handlebars on the toy, for whatever reason, I don't know what that reason is, often are broken inside the box. So that's obviously a bit of a bummer. Size-wise, this toy is about 26 centimeters long in bike mode. You can see the feet kind of have a large extension and represent kind of a large portion of that number. Also, there's essentially no metal in this toy whatsoever, which you probably guessed at as I've shown you all of that broken plastic. All right, let's transform this toy and take a look at slave mode. Like the other releases, you do need to remove Shogo for transformation, but you can put him back in time for him to be inside the vehicle in slave mode. Now, one of the big improvements on the Proto-Garland is that this cowl that covers Shogo can be brought down and closed without having to lift up the front section of the vehicle, and can be popped back open again fairly easily. So on the original Garland toys, the cowl and the front of this shroud, there was a point, and so you had to tip the front of the vehicle forward to put the shroud down. No longer the case, so much easier access to the Shogo figure. So lots and lots of new parts on the Proto-Garland. One of the most obvious ones is the head. You got this big jutting forward chin on it. You have the sensors on either side and on the top. Now that's just green paint on the sides, but the visor is obviously translucent green. You don't get that painted inner section like you did on the original Garland. It's kind of painted in there, so it looks nice. Original Garland, obviously, much more understated aesthetic, a little bit cleaner lines, so kind of up to you which one appeals to you more. Now, the one big weakness on the original Garland, it's actually two weaknesses, is the shoulder. So you have this bar right here can break very easily on the original releases, less so on the follow-ups. And this piece of plastic on top of the shoulder also very prone to breaking. It's actually broken on the other side there. So that was the big weakness of the original Garland design. The new Garland design has much, much better shoulders. So they are sturdy, they go into place, position well, and they even kind of have like a ratcheting to them as they come up. They can hold things in the forward position just fine. That arm is not dropping down. Now you lose one twist point that was totally gratuitous in the shoulder area, the bicep. So right now you only have one twist right below the shoulder. On the original toys, we have two twist points. There's a twist at the top, and then there's another twist down lower. You lose that second twist that you didn't really need at all on the Proto-Garland so that you can have better range of movement at the elbow. So here we go. On the original Garland toy, you can get 90 degrees. On this toy, we're doing better than 90 degrees. So there is obviously a big improvement there from an articulation standpoint. Another big improvement that we will get into in just a moment is the hand. You can see there is now a peg there. So let's check out the weapons that come with this toy. This toy comes with two guns. The first is the Proto-Garland gun, which we see here. Fairly nicely detailed in green and silver. It has a removable magazine with kind of a pivot down twist to it. Nothing really going on, just a little dark paint in the front of the magazine, so almost a gratuitous touch that doesn't really add much playability. But you can remove the barrel of the gun and replace it with this net attachment. This was shown in the movie when Shogo tries to steal the Proto-Garland. It has a little plug in here, and there you go. This is what the Garland would use to try to capture show go if it was being used by a bad guy, obviously. We also get a couple other weapons. There's Hargen weapons, a Hargen gun and shield. The Hargen gun has another removable magazine. Again, really nothing going on there. We can use that peg in the hand now to really grip these weapons well. You can see there's a hole in the back, and we would just line that up and press in. Now, I obviously am very afraid of breaking this toy, so I'm not really going to do that too well. But even without doing that, my hips are very loose. I can show you that this toy can hold the gun up. And this is the big gun here. Now, again, I could have it a lot tighter in the hand, but I'm really just trying to show you how stiff. Look at that shoulder. It's not falling down. Now, for those of you who don't remember what we had before, of course it moves as soon as I go to. All right, this is what the original Garland had. It can't really hold the gun very well at all. And if you handle the gun at all, it droops. So that was a major bummer. And then also, if you tried to bring the gun out, instantly falls down. So nothing going on there. Whereas this toy is able to much better handle that gun. Still obviously not perfect, but good enough. All right, so let's go ahead and drop that weapon. And then take a look at the other weapons. So we have the Hargen gun. Nothing surprising there, it just fits right in. And again, I could peg it in a little bit better if I wanted to. It's a little smaller gun, so it's going to give you even less issues with holding it. And then the other cool thing we get here is this shield that goes on the little extension from the forearm. Kind of slides onto the back there, and then it can pivot and twist. So you can get some interesting poses going on with that shield involved, which will add to the playability overall and our nice inclusions. Now here you can see where that broken peg is not helping me out, but that is not what's causing the sloppy hips. That's just really loose hips. There's nothing broken there. So obviously that just leads to a ton of frustration, but let's take a look at articulation overall. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've pegged the gun into this hand, and it is as solid as you could possibly get now. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the shield. And again, we already know that the hips are pretty sloppy here. And let's go through top to bottom articulation here. So we've got the head on a ball joint again. Nothing surprising there. Shoulders you've already seen. I've already gone through the elbows. Hands rotate around, individually articulated fingers. Unlike the original Garland toy, you don't have that straight pointy finger anymore. The fingers are completely symmetrical on either side, and both have that peg, so both can hold the gun. Going down, we have hips that come in and out, and they actually have a little bit of a slider to them. So if I can remove a leg for a moment here. You can see inside there's a housing, and that housing goes in and out. So that gives you a little bit further extension when you're handling the toy to get a really wide stance with those hips. Now again, total bummer that they aren't sturdier hips. Going down, we have this twist point here. The knee should be pulled forward. You get that 90 degrees of articulation, and then a little bit of articulation forward. The foot was a little bit of a letdown to me after the original Garland. It has a little bit of back and forth, and the toe has a little bit of articulation. You can see the foot moves a little bit, but otherwise it's a little awkward. It doesn't have quite the range of motion I would really like to have to take advantage of exactly what those hips can do. Now, obviously, when your hips are as loose and sloppy as mine, you're not going to have as much fun anyways. Now, points to notice with this Proto-Garland. We saw in bike mode that these magnets now have housings that slide, and it seems to work against slave mode. It's because these want to pull away, the shoulders want to pull away, and the housing lets the magnets come with them. So instead of holding everything super tight onto the body like it should, it's letting the shoulders get a little gap to them. So I'm not a big fan of that. Now again, when everything's stiff and brand new, that probably wasn't that big of an issue. And the hips being this loose, probably not as big an issue. So it's unfortunate, but time not kind to this particular toy. Now here's one you don't see every day. Here's a Garland holding a weapon with both hands. So you can pull that off. Now again, my hips are extremely loose, so I'd have to be real confident in where I've got this toy positioned to actually try that. Now we can obviously in slave mode open up those back fans and get that detail showing, which certainly makes the back of the toy a lot more attractive looking. It might be a little boring without it. And then even coming to the front, you get those skirts open, which, boy, that doesn't sound right. Gives it a little more pop as well. So that's one more thing. And there you go. That's your Proto-Garland, folks, in slave mode. Obviously, not a lot of fun with the loose hips, but you can certainly do things to address that. Unfortunately, taking the toy apart to get to those hips is not the most fun, so you could try the clear nail polish trick since it's a ball joint, but it would take a little bit more effort than it might sound like, so a point of frustration there. So you do have a peg in the hand, you do have some fun guns to put in that peg, but the bronze plastic problem strikes again, and here we have fingers just cracking right off when I try to wrap them around the gun. So what I would advise, if you're going to use a weapon with one of these toys that you have lying around, just use, especially the Garland gun here, just wrap the fingers around the base. Don't try to get fingers anywhere near the trigger, and that will make your life easier. And let the gun be in there pretty loose. Don't try to get it in there pretty securely. Just get a nice gentle grip on there, and you shouldn't have problems with fingers breaking off. It's as soon as you try to get that to be a solid grip that you are in the danger zone. All right, everyone, now that you've seen how great this toy is, you should obviously rush out and go buy one. Actually, you know, honestly, when this toy first came out, my review probably would have sounded a lot like that. I think this toy has a ton of great stuff to offer. It's very impressive, even considering the previous Garland toys that had just been released before it. Obviously, it has not stood the test of time. It now crumbles when you look at it, and you should definitely not go purchase it. And that is the benefit of doing a classic toy review. We get to kind of do a check-in and see how things have aged, and this toy has aged very poorly. But for me, what it's made me realize is that I do really love the Proto-Garland design. Not the hugest fan of Megazone 2-3 Part 2, but this toy I think is a great rendition of that vehicle. And while I can't recommend this particular toy for various reasons, I do know that I will certainly be buying future Proto-Garland toys and hope that they incorporate many of the cool things that were in this toy and manage to do it without completely self-destructing at many of the joints. That's it. Check out my full article on anymoon.com, and as always, thanks for watching.